Hello and welcome to the PowerSwitch, gaming's call-in talk radio show. My name is Peter Spezia, and today is June 12th, 2017. It's the third day of E3 2017 press conferences, coming off the heels of Sony with the PlayStation Media Showcase at E3 2017. Joined by Scott White from DashingNerds.com. Thank you again for joining me here for this conference here. A lot of people looking forward to Sony. And I'm seeing some early mixed reactions about the conference. But before we go to the callers at rhymeswithasia.com/call on our Discord server where you can call in and participate, we're going to talk about kind of breaking down the different things that were announced during the PlayStation Media Showcase and then kind of give our grades before we throw it over to you, the callers. So, Scott, let's begin.
Yeah.
Kick things off. Again, I like the presentation of opening with live music. I think, it was definitely a little more epic in scale and duration last year, but this had a nice feel to it, setting the Asian Indian sort of flair, and pretty early you can kind of tell it's Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. But you were kind of saying it'd be interesting if it were like somehow a Prince of Persia. Like, just coming out of nowhere. I'm like, how would Ubisoft not have that pull? Well, we'll see about, third parties not having pull for certain.
Well, and you also have to remember, even before that, you did have that hour-long showcase prior to the conference proper, where they did announce a bunch of things, like the NAC 2 release date, Hidden Agenda, and the PlayLink stuff, GT Sport, things along those lines. And what you say was the biggest announcement of their whole thing was even before the conference proper, I guess, really started.
I kind of want to save that for the end a little bit, because I think it kind of will frame it in a way that I think their best announcement so far came outside of the conference. And looking at it, how it just happened right before, I'm like, well, if that's outside of the conference, how, what is the actual conference like? We'll get to that though, because that was shocking, really. But yes, Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, Naughty Dog is amazing. They're one of my favorite developers. August 22nd for that game. Horizon Zero Dawn does have DLC called The Frozen Wilds that is coming in 2017. Got an extended look at Days Gone, and that seems to be coming together. I didn't see a release date for that though.
They didn't. I don't believe they even gave a window for that one.
But it seems like that's coming together, showing some promise. If you like the zombie game, I mean, I don't think I'll necessarily play that one, but it looks like it's coming together, especially for a team that, their last game was Uncharted Golden Abyss on PlayStation Vita. I mean, what a jump, from overall game production there. Sean Layden comes out, talks a bit, and then shows Monster Hunter World. So yes, it is indeed confirmed. The Monster Hunter 5, so to speak. Sony has paid money to get, especially that Japanese audience pull, to get Monster Hunter open world. Some say, just from the early rumors that, maybe it's kind of a not dumbed down necessarily, but just kind of, I don't even know the proper term for it, compared to like the 3DS.
We'll have to wait and see. I mean, they didn't really show any gameplay. I imagine tomorrow when they do their little developer Coliseum showcase, they have Monster Hunter ending the day, so I imagine we'll get some more info and maybe some gameplay there.
Fair enough, but yeah, that could be certainly worth some discussion. Like that is confirmed. Sony has a Monster Hunter game once again. So
on console,
getting it on console, and that's certainly big. Bluepoint is, Bluepoint's work is amazing if you've played Uncharted: The Nathan Drake Collection. I mean, to really retouch up those games and kind of make them a synonymous style. But we were seeing certain trademarks being kind of revitalized, as seems to be the norm for the last couple of years for Sony. And if you were kind of spying NeoGAF a bit there and you found that link, you saw Shadow of the Colossus in there. And it's like, well, okay, fine, whatever. You see Bluepoint pop up, you see Studio Japan, it's like, this is Shadow. They're remaking Shadow of the Colossus.
Looked very, very pretty. I am very excited for that. It doesn't look like a simple just up-res textures or anything like that. It looks like a full remake.
It's based Bluepoint work. It looks super on point. That's coming 2018.
Yes.
Big trailer for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, September 19th. They say story demo download today.
Yeah.
I wish they gave a little more information. That would be interesting to see what that actually is, if that actually has any gameplay, or are we just watching, cutscenes of.
If it's
of
a demo,
story.
I imagine we'll get a couple like early levels or intro stuff.
Yeah, or a couple characters at least for some.
Well, that trailer right there, I feel, gave away most, if not all, of the whatchamacallit?
The cast.
The cast.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at roster leaks and things like that, there's still more characters if that's all to be believed, but definitely covered a lot of them. But yeah, still that. Obviously, we're going to see Call of Duty World War II. Interesting trailer. November 3rd. Then we get into VR. More than one VR game, that's for sure. Let's put it out that way. How do you start with Skyrim VR? And Bethesda passed on that? Like, Bethesda's midnight Eastern Time showcase yesterday, that was so... That felt so quick and felt lacking. I mean, is that only PlayStation VR exclusive?
It might be timed for PlayStation VR.
Yeah, maybe.
Possible.
That's crazy, but I guess it kind of gives credence to the meme that's going around of
Skyrim will never die.
Yeah, it's 2062 and Skyrim is coming out for PlayStation 8. Like,
yeah,
fair enough. Okay, lots of other VR games here. Star Child,
which was like a platformer.
A little bit.
It looked
with
interesting.
big robots. You had the Inpatient, which kind of had like an Outlast sort of feel. Kind of this doctor, mad scientist
Escape from
face.
an insane asylum kind of vibe.
Probably my least favorite announcement of the show. I did not care to see Monster of the Deep Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, that was incredibly random and okay.
I mean, when they're talking about like the the Prompto stuff from last year, and it's like, well, no, the best now we can do is fishing. I don't need. I did not do any of the fishing when I played Final Fantasy 15. I don't need to play a VR game that's only fishing.
What did kind of intrigue me more than the thing itself is the logo for Final Fantasy 15 universe.
Yeah.
That it was under. And I was like,
That is interesting.
What you gonna do with that there the logo, Square?
You see what Square's cooking up on their live streams throughout E3. That's for sure, and that's coming September 2017. Bravo Team, like the Inpatient, was another one of those trademarks that popped up. So that's got to find more uses for that Farpoint gun peripheral. So that makes sense.
Which I've heard is actually a pretty good peripheral.
Yeah. Although Bravo Team looks a little undercooked. I'm sure it's early,
looks
but
pretty
it's fine.
Indie-ish.
Moss is this game with a little character.
You're like a spirit and you're helping like a mouse warrior.
Yeah.
It actually looked kind of interesting to me. Yeah. It kind of reminded me of like the mouse warrior thing kind of reminded me of the Redwall series and the spirit and having to control things in the environment to help the creature progress and everything reminded me of Murray from Rayman, where you could control him and help go through the level.
Yeah, that's a fair comparison, I'd say. Yeah. But that did it for PSVR, and so I mean it's good to see that Sony is, making more VR games, but nothing totally really stood out to me except Skyrim. Like it is a substantial game. It kind of goes in hand with that Doom and Fallout 4 and another Bethesda property being moved over to VR. But it's the same problem with Fallout. It's like, how will the movement work? Is it just you're holding a controller, like no move, but then like how is the motion controlling with the shield and the sword? It'll be interesting to see how that's actually mapped out on a controller and which controllers they're using. Then we've got God of War, early 2018. Nice big beefy segment of the game. I'm really looking forward to playing that personally. So no 2017 there. And it makes sense, It
looks much more interesting to me than the other God of War games, which had fun combat and everything, but I just got so sick of one-note Kratos, who seems to have much more... he seems to be a much more complex character in this one.
And that's always nice,
which is fine.
Gotta accept good writing there. Detroit Become Human had a longer showcase than I thought it would. And again, like another game I'm personally looking forward to a lot. Interesting for us, living in Michigan, to kind of see Detroit with the spotlight, and then we're joking like, oh yeah,
looting in Detroit,
looting and rioting. Oh, that's almost fitting. Sure, fine. But yeah, it was
very similar to the style of thing they did for their trailer last year.
Yeah.
different character they followed this time, but it was very similar in the style where they showed like the branching paths towards the end and that you had so many choices.
And they've mentioned that they have multiple protagonists, and I wonder how they're going to kind of weave that storytelling.
Yeah.
And, was Connor was the one last year. This is now Marcus. And you still have Wakara, the original sort of girl from the first trailer. So I'm sure there's more to still show. Again, no date on that one, so it's probably still quite a ways off. Probably late 2018 at best. But still looking pretty impressive. Destiny 2, okay, yeah, another trailer. I mean, they showed so much Destiny at the Destiny 2 event.
Plus, Destiny 2 looks a lot like Destiny 1, so...
Right.
They did go into the PlayStation exclusive content that will be exclusive to PlayStation for the first year or so. The strikes and skins and the maps and stuff like that. So
and that makes sense. You got to have something to try to pull the audience that way. And then Spider-Man. You wrap with Spider-Man. Two thoughts. First, I was thinking, like, don't wrap now. I loved the pacing of the show, but as a result, like, it was only an hour long.
Well, I think they're taking into account, you also had that hour beforehand.
I think you can. So. Yeah.
I still think of the whole, like, yes, the main, like, on-stage portion was only an hour, but you had the entire hour before that they were also announcing things, they were showing things and doing things along those lines. So I really think you have to take it as a whole, and then you do get a full 2-hour experience.
Fair enough, but I'm still going to grade it on this hour because, I mean, I wonder for people in the theater, like, you're talking about, like, the traditional E3 conference, and for people in the theater, for it just to be an hour, I think that's a little disappointing. They don't need to be sitting in a theater and then Sid Schumann and Ryan Clements are sitting at a desk, throwing to packages. And you watch the beginning of that first hour, like, they were missing the throws to packages, like, it was not polished and tight. Let's talk Spider-Man though. Like, the best demo I've seen.
It was
at E3.
beautiful. It was, and I know people are like, oh, QuickTime events. Oh, I was like, I'm sorry, you still get a lot of the fun combat. You still get the web slinging. You still get that. I don't mind doing those set pieces, having some interaction with the QuickTime events.
Yeah.
I would rather have some QuickTime events in those for some engagement than to just see it happen in front of me.
Yeah, and when you're moving about the world in such a complex way, you're not going to have total full control. Like, it's just not possible.
Right.
There's what are you going to do? You're going to press a certain button to do the running on the wall as you're slinging through New York, which looks great.
It looks gorgeous.
Awesome. I was really, really super excited by that, and that really held up well. Spider-Man, or Marvel Spider-Man as the final name, 2018, pretty expected there.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to make this year for sure. That was the conference. I want to get back to what I thought was the biggest announcement that Sony has made, and that's Undertale. Undertale, a game 2 years ago that people could have sworn up and down that was going to stay on PC because of the things it does with the save file, and it's so meta in that way. PlayStation 4 and Vita? Get out of here. Like, how... I mean, you can talk about that first hour and the things that they showed. I mean, the play link looks really interesting. I like the idea of bringing more games for multiplayer. Everyone has a phone, control through the phone. Until Dawn developers with a new game with Hidden Agenda, great. That's awesome. But Undertale is just one of those. I wish I had Twitter by me to see that light up as that announcement goes through. To have Undertale on Vita, that's going to be amazing. I really cannot wait for that.
Yeah, and I guess, like, I understand. Maybe it's because I haven't played Undertale yet, but I understand why they did. They probably didn't gauge properly, or they didn't think it was as big of a deal as I think a lot of people will make it to be, to announce Undertale for PS4 and Vita. I think that's why they had it in the before show, instead of including it in with the newer titles and things like that in their main show.
I think it would have been interesting to go and when you look at past E3 segments, to like missing the indie segment, and I guess that's what you're saying when it goes like before the show. I guess that was kind of missing, and maybe that could have benefited.
Yeah, they didn't have really an indie presence this time around, where I think Undertale would have really fit in well. I don't know in the main conference, that's 60 minutes. I don't know a spot where it would have fit. Just in terms of flow and everything.
Yeah. I mean, and granted, I like how it flowed between, the PS4 games to the VR and back to PS4. I think it was an elegant way to have those little transitions. Sure, fair enough. Anyway, there's lots to talk about, I'm sure, and I'd like to get to the callers. But before we do, what's your grade for? Let's say that 1 hour, the 9 p.m. Eastern time.
Just for that single hour, B minus. I would say if I'm just including that 60-minute period, just because a lot of it was things we already had seen. Shadow of the Colossus, that was very cool. Had they not shown the Renew or the Shadow of the Colossus things on NeoGAF, the copyright, that would have made it a bit more of a surprise if I hadn't seen that. But that's a cool surprise. Monster Hunter being confirmed, that's a big surprise. Me and a couple of my friends have played the other, we played them on PSPs. That's a very fun game. I'm excited that that's being released, that's coming out. The random announcement that the story demo for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite's pretty cool. Wasn't expecting that. VR Skyrim, wasn't expecting that. Spider-Man still looks fantastic. But there wasn't a lot of known quantities here. Some very cool games and everything, but it definitely looks interesting. So I would say B minus if I'm just giving it for the single 60 minutes. I would up it to about a B plus if I included it in if I included the first hour before the show.
I think that's fair enough. I'll go B minus for just the hour for a lot of the same reasons. I think I enjoyed personally a lot of what I saw in the 1 hour. I was just a little, puzzled that it was only going to be an hour because of that pace. And you have plenty to show. There's so much that you could show, and I don't know why they thought with the excellent pacing and the, just one after the other. That's how you should do. I think.
I will definitely give Sony credit. They did. I love the just little bit of talk here in a few big trailers. He comes out and talks and then goes away again. I thought they did a very good job with their pacing.
You have time throughout the week to show these longer demos and the devs talking if people really want to search that out. And it's to whet the appetite with the trailer. So I really liked that. But as you mentioned, showing a lot of what you showed if you showed last year with the games that are in the future. I agree, revisit them, show more. I think that was done well. I'm curious where Sucker Punch's game was, to be honest. And that would have been something to say, and here's something new from first party.
Right.
Now, granted, you look at the first party situation compared to Microsoft, if you're looking at that for the competition's sake, it's no comparison. You start right off with Uncharted and Horizon Zero Dawn, and it's almost just those two right off the bat. That's and it's and that's separate DLC levels, and that's first party. You go Days Gone. Then your big ones at the end. The first party is strong, and that's even not including things like Death Stranding and whatever Sucker Punch's game is. Overall, the PlayStation VR stuff, I liked seeing that they're continuing to support it in a way, but not much caught my attention, and maybe that's a good thing. I don't have a PSVR myself. I think I was just miffed that. As awesome as I was just sold on the presentation and I liked the games I saw a lot, but the hour really puzzled me. And then, for seeing something as awesome as the Undertale announcement, not to include that in the show, I think it warped expectations a little bit.
Right. And I think we're also a bit spoiled just because Sony has had such mind-blowing dream years the past 2 or 3 years.
For sure.
So I think also had we not come off of last year with all those craziness and the year before, I think that hurt this year, but you can't have God years every single year.
For sure. I will say, Microsoft had a better show this year. Plain and simple. I mean, hardware helps, but longer time, more games, and that's not including the montage. But still, Nintendo tomorrow. We'll see what can be done in 25 minutes there, because that's going to be even more compressed time. But at least we know that going into it. When we come back, we'll get to you, the callers. Now, what do you have to think? There's lots to talk about for Sony at E3 2017, but you can talk about anything there or even comment on what another caller had to say as well. That's all when we come back here on the Power Switch. Welcome back to the Power Switch. Our E3 yes or no questions for Sony. We had 10 of them. So I wanted to kind of run through them very quickly, see where we stand currently, because some talked about during the conference, but some were, by the end of E3 could this happen. I want to kind of run through these and with you and see where we currently stand. Again, may change by the end of E3 for some of them. So let's start. New PlayStation hardware announced, either console, handheld, or VR. Did not happen, at least as far as we know. I think that would be in the conference if it would have happened. So that would be a no. God of War commits to a 2017 release? No. Early 2018. Spider-Man gameplay footage is shown? Absolutely. The Last of Us Part 2 had a trailer or demo shown during the conference? No. All of you put yes. Come on, guys. No, too soon after PSX. That's a long way to go on that game. I don't even know if next year's PSX will have anything, but we'll see at that point. But no on Last of Us Part 2. Sucker Punch reveals their PS4 game. I thought this was a sure thing. No. Well,
PSX. PSX.
There you go. PSX. If it's not at PSX, something's wrong. But
December
what do I
5th,
know?
No, or 9th.
Whenever that is, yeah. More than one PlayStation VR game, not an add-on experience, gets a trailer during the conference. Yes, a lot. If you want to count Skyrim, that would be 6. No, I don't count Final Fantasy, so 4. Four games I'd count, and definitely more than one. So yes, there. Bloodborne 2 is announced. No,
nothing.
A lot of people thought something from From would be a sure thing, and that is not the case. Red Dead Redemption 2 has a trailer or demo shown during the conference. No, Rockstar will do their own thing. A new celebrity is confirmed to appear in Death Stranding. Well, if Death Stranding is not at the show beforehand, that kind of says no. Sorry, Emma Stone. Not yet, anyway. And use the phrase U.S. dollars. Sean Layden didn't talk much. Did not say U.S. dollars.
Nothing pricing, period.
So no. Hopefully you did well. We'll see how everything shakes out at the end. But right now, let's get to the callers and see what you have to say about Sony at E3 2017. Joining us from North Carolina, Damon, welcome back to the Power Switch.
Hello, I feel welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Been joining us for these E3 episodes. Good to have you here. What is on your mind with Sony at E3?
So I guess what might be on my mind is a little offbeat. I thought the conference was okay, but my thing is the third parties that presented their games at Sony's conference actually made me like some of their other projects less because of it. Now, let me explain. So we got a new Monster Hunter announced for PS4, and as Dashing Nerds Greg insists that we know, it is not exclusive to the PS4.
Right, it's early for Xbox One and PS4, early 2018, and then later on for PC as well.
PC, interesting. Good on PC for getting Monster Hunter.
Yeah, and as an Xbox owner, that's great. But Capcom recently announced Monster Hunter Double Cross for the Switch, and now I compare the two games, and I'm like, there's absolutely no reason for me to buy a Double Cross for the Switch. I should just get this version because it's brighter, prettier. It looks great. I was just end up kind of spending $120 on nearly the same game twice. I know it won't be exactly the same, but if I have to pick one, I'm gonna pick the not handheld port. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I can kind of see that. It's judging based on the rumors, which seem to be, pretty spot on when they're talking about like, oh, Sony's gonna get Monster Hunter. It's gonna be this. It's gonna be that. They're saying that, the ones on Switch would be a lot more hardcore Monster Hunter focused, whereas this is more trying to open up and expand the audience. So I guess it depends on what you want in a Monster Hunter game. I get, wanting the better graphics, the open world, and all that. But if you're a traditional Monster Hunter player, I think you may want that plus the portability, and it's always the Switch's selling factor is the portability.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very different experiences. I think it'll be much faster and more action, like maybe more hack and slash or more action RPG-ish on the whole in Monster Hunter World. While with the Monster Hunter on Switch or Nintendo platforms, it'll be more of the planning and stuff. This is all speculation. I have no reason, or have nothing to back this up right now, but I could see something more along those lines.
And although this is, a big, trying to get the Japanese audience, on console, trying to buy console, I wonder if, your perspective is kind of what maybe the Western audience who wants to give Monster Hunter a try would see. Like, they like the better graphics,
Right.
they like the open world. That's kind of playing a little more to Western game design sensibilities.
And plus, Monster Hunter has been on console out in Japan. There has been for a number of years, but it was more like MMOs, more of like a massive multiplayer paid subscription kind of service that they've had out in Japan, and those have been on consoles, both Xbox 360, PC, and PlayStation 3, I believe. So those have been out. It just never came out over here.
It wasn't just Monster Hunter for me, too, though. As I guess, even though there's that separation there, it was also, say, for example, Elder Scrolls VR. Just when I started kind of being high on Elder Scrolls Switch and now Elder Scrolls with VR, which I guess you can get past motion sickness in the VR version. It's kind of a bit more of an appealing package to me personally, because I think I would rather play the VR version of a good game than the mobile, not as technologically impressive. Because I think the Switch version is like halfway between the remastered and original version. It's not fully what it was on PS4 and Xbox One, but not like as it was originally released. So and the VR version has the same motion controls essentially, and of course with Destiny 2, I don't have a PlayStation 4 as of yet. So that means when I've pre-ordered Destiny 2 on the Xbox, and I'm gonna get a package that has less content in it. Some more of it may come later, but there's actually still some content on PS4 Destiny 1 that just kind of never made it over. I guess it's generally good to show, and the games themselves don't look half bad, but it kind of makes me sort of lukewarm on things that I was excited for that were unrelated.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, as far as the Destiny 2 and keeping the DLC and whatever kind of timed exclusive, it does feel like a aren't we past this point by now? Like, it feels like almost an antiquated practice just to try to kind of get that. It's kind of sold. So I kind of agree with you. Like, it feels like an outdated practice, although a very transparent one. As far as Skyrim, though, how has Skyrim shown up twice in separate conferences? I know, personally, I agree with you. If I were to pick between the two, as someone who did not play much of Skyrim originally, I would prefer to play it in VR compared to Switch. That's just me personally. But I get why Bethesda may have not wanted to have it show up twice, but it could have just been in like a Skyrim block. Be like, here's stuff on Switch, and it's also coming for PSVR. Like, you didn't have to necessarily separate it. It is odd to see some of the third parties play those games. In a way, I'm glad. Oh, another one. Here's another yes or no question as far as the Call of Duty and Destiny. Having both demos in a conference, like both trailers. Yeah, I'm kind of glad, because that would have been like overkill on the first person shooter sort of. Right. Had long demos and all that. So I get what you're saying. Especially with the Destiny PS4, like, come play first. The best place to play is on PS4. Like, yeah.
Microsoft has done this with full games.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Tomb Raider for an entire year. At least,
sure.
Like, in terms of Destiny and things like this is just like skins and things. It's nothing huge or major. It's not an entire title. Same thing with they had it with like the Dead Rising, some of the Dead Rising games and things like that. Yeah. So I think there are worse offenders of it, but I do agree it is an antiquated practice.
It's just something interesting to think about, how third parties represent themselves in E3 conferences, and that's good to think about. So, Damon, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Thank you for calling in. Hope you have a great rest of the E3, and really appreciate your time.
I mean, it's only one more to go.
And we're at Nintendo tomorrow, and we'll be good to go. Thanks again, man.
Thank you.
Joining us from New Jersey, Matt. Welcome back to the Power Switch.
Hey,
Hey.
Yo.
Sony, E3, your
man,
thoughts?
what kind of world are we living in where Ubisoft is a better conference than Sony?
I mean, maybe it was the absence of Aisha Tyler. I mean, I don't want to believe that because I missed Aisha Tyler this year, but maybe it was that. I don't know.
I'll throw out a real quick hot take. I hate the way that Sony structures their conference because it's trailer after trailer after trailer. I can watch trailers on YouTube anytime. I want to see developers come on stage, talk about their game, show their passion for the game, and go in depth into like how it works. And Sony doesn't do that at
out
all.
of the conference though. Let them have their own like soapbox or like Jeff Keighley shows.
See, I like what Jeff Keighley's doing on YouTube, and yeah, he's having the developers come by. You see him talk to Cliffy B for Lawbreakers, and there's great energy there, and he's really going in depth and showing exclusive things there. Yeah, I agree with you. I like that outside of the conference. I wonder if the Sony theater sort of thing around the country, if that plays to showing trailer after trailer. It's almost like movie previews. The trailers there. It may be a personal take. I mean, I personally am a big fan because I worry about getting on stage and the dragging aspect. I totally do want to see the passion from developers. I think we can get the best of both worlds.
But so specifically what I wanted to talk about is in regards to the Spider-Man game. Everyone's giving it a hard time because of the QuickTime events and all that. I'm not so worried about that. I'm worried about one specific thing about it, which was literally 10 seconds of gameplay that might have been the most important 10 seconds of the whole presentation. The best Spider-Man game, completely uncontested, there's no question, is Spider-Man 2 for GameCube, PlayStation 2, and I think it was on Xbox as well.
Right.
And the reason that it was the best one, even though the story's kind of weird, the combat's wonky, the best one, it's the best one because of the web slinging. The web slinging in Spider-Man 2 is perfect. It anchors onto buildings and it goes exactly the right speed. It feels like you are really web slinging through New York City, and they got it down so perfect, and no Spider-Man game since has done it. And seeing Insomniac Spider-Man in the conference today, a lot of cool stuff was going on. I know Zero's going to come on and talk about that in a couple minutes. He can tell you everything that was really, really great about it. But what I focused on the most was those 10 seconds of web slinging. And they got the anchoring right. It connects to buildings. But what they didn't get is that the weight of Spider-Man in the swing seems really wrong. It seems floaty and slow. And I'm so worried that's representative of what the web slinging experience is going to be in this game, because if they don't nail that perfectly, then the concept of the Spider-Man game has kind of failed, and it's lost its best feature. And it's really scaring me. Like, it was literally 10 seconds of footage, and it scares me so much. I don't know if this game is going to be the Spider-Man game that I've always wanted anymore. I really hope it is, but I'm worried. I'm really, really worried.
That's really interesting. Scott, did you play the original Spider-Man 2?
Oh,
game?
yeah. It's actually funny. My David Barisha and I, a friend we went to high school with, back in high school, that came out and we both really wanted it. So, and our moms were like, no, you can't spend the money. So what we did, because we were super smart, is we split the cost of the game.
Of course. Yeah.
And we would hand it off to each other to play. And I agree, it was a fantastic game. And it did get the web slimming down perfectly. I'm not super worried about this yet in terms of the new game, just because we saw the web slinging in a section of the game that was much more like focused or
very scripted, linear, set piece.
linear thing.
Don't know how the exploration in the free world is going to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus, you also have to think this is still a year out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in terms of adjusting weights and really nailing in the swinging aspect and the physics of that, I don't want to say it's an easy fix or tweak, but it's something that they will be tweaking.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried so much about that quite yet. I think it still looked amazing. I thought the animations and the combat and everything was so smooth, and it was the best looking like Spider-Man combat
You were talking about like he moves like how Spider-Man should move.
The acrobatic aspect of his movements and everything were, I thought, handled beautifully. I thought the animation was beautiful. So I agree that nailing the feeling of the web swinging is incredibly important to any good Spider-Man experience. I completely agree with you there, Matt. I'm not too worried about it just yet, and I also didn't see the. I'll have to go back and rewatch the footage, but I didn't see that floatiness or the slowness to it. But that I wouldn't worry about it too far until we start seeing it in how it looks in more like later trailers or like release trailers and things along those lines.
And if anything, it looks a lot better than the infamous, Spider-Man GIF video, what have you, of like, Spider-Man, come save me, failing the quick time event, and he splats on his face and the building blows up. I mean, it's
Spider-Man 3 was a dark time in the Spider-Man canon.
Yeah.
Terrible movie makes a terrible game.
Yeah.
I hope you're right, Scott. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero by and far. So having a truly good Spider-Man game is what I've wanted for years and years and years. So
Insomniac is a fantastic studio, so I have a lot of faith in those guys too that they'll nail it in the end. But it's something definitely to keep our eyes open for.
And how good is that game looking on PS4 Pro? I mean, you're talking visually, like seeing that on PS4 Pro.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Scorpio, Xbox One X, gotta get used to that still. Can talk teraflops all they want, but like I'm happy with how a lot of those games are looking on PS4 Pro.
I'm happy how it will look on my normal PlayStation 4.
Yeah, that too.
I'm trying to avoid needing to buy a PlayStation 4 Pro. I may buy one just so that it doesn't sound like a jet engine's taking off in my living room every time I want to play a game.
I'm starting Horizon Zero Dawn. I had a lot of just nasty clicks, like for whatever reason, like in the early cutscenes. It's like, is a train running? Like. Like no, that's just the PS4. Okay, great, running a disc. So I'm with you there. Like if the PS4 goes kaput, like maybe a Pro's in the future. I don't know. Well, Matt, thanks so much for calling in. Great to hear your Spider-Man hot take, and we'll hopefully hear from you.
I don't mean for it to be a hot take. I'm genuinely very worried because I more than anything I need that game to be good.
It's definitely worth discussing. I'll give you that. Have a great rest of E3. Maybe we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Of course, you too.
Joining us from Colorado, ZeroRanma, welcome back to the PowerSwitch.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Good to be back and good to have you. Sony at E3 2017, what did you have in mind to talk about?
Well, between various bad things like horrible Twitch lag, zombies hanging from the ceiling, and weird audio mixing, I just want to talk about something positive. So let's talk about Spider-Man.
Let's continue talking about Spider-Man.
This has got to be the best Arkham game I've ever seen. Everywhere where I look at this, it just plays like an Arkham game. And that's not a bad thing. Like, you got swinging from location to location, takedowns that are silent, takedowns that aren't so silent, good fighting combo system. The web swinging is exactly like Batman's grappling hook. This is an Arkham game.
It's a lot faster too, and when you're seeing like going from the beams and perching there, like that was great.
And it should be faster because Spider-Man is faster.
Of course.
Yeah, that's the thing. Spider-Man is a lot faster than Batman would be.
How cool was that moment with the trip web to the tripwire there to
when
pin
he
against
one of his gadgets?
That was so cool.
Yeah, so I guess they're definitely going with the more modern Spider-Man, with a lot more of the web-based gadgets, and Yuri Watanabe, who from what Kirby told me, is his current love interest in 616 universe. So
interesting.
Okay.
I did not. I just thought that was going to be like, the local police captain. Okay, we're throwing love interest in there. That's interesting. I found it interesting to say, Yuri, and like they're saying like, oh, Yuri here. Like, well, if I got to kind of bring in something, and I don't know how I didn't mention it to Matt. Matt always has this thing where, seconds until Yuri Lowenthal. Because Yuri Lowenthal is in he voices so many things, and it's like, well, it was like 2 seconds to Yuri Lowenthal sighting for this Spider-Man trailer. Because he plays the role once again, just like he had the lead in Sunset Overdrive for Insomniac. So when they kept saying Yuri, and it's like, you mean me? So I'm Spider-Man, I'm Yuri. Oh, no, wait, that's breaking the fourth wall. So
and that's Deadpool.
Right. We can't have that. So, no, that's interesting. I did not know that about Miss Watanabe.
Yeah, and I guess we're having Miles in the game too. Miles Morales, who is
Are we really?
Oh, very
at
cool.
the end of the conference, they showed him.
Oh,
They cut back to the trailer, and then it showed like someone recording the hanging helicopter, and the dude's friend's like, "Miles, come on!" and it's Miles Morales.
Oh, cool. I didn't catch that. I just thought it was a funny thing because
yeah, it just said like
the
it's
guy was
over.
it's over.
Maybe we saw a different cut. I don't know. I
Or
did
a
not
cut in
see that
later.
at all. But that's awesome.
So yeah, that's we'll probably have our second Spider-Man coming into things too.
That'd be interesting. Multiple
Oh,
playable
co-op
characters.
Spider-Man.
Oh god, that'd be so cool. Oh, that'd be ridiculous. But no, I think it was the best demo I've seen so far at E3. Like that was
It was a very,
that was
very
awesome.
nice
And
demo.
granted, it's set pieces and all that, but I think they placed it really well as the end capper for the show.
Yeah. My only sad part is that it wasn't a villain I recognized from Spider-Man franchise. Like maybe it's one of the more modern villains that I just don't know about, but if they had shown someone else, like show Scorpion or Vulture or
Right.
Venom, God have you.
Do you think it's going to be the main villain though?
Who can say?
Yeah.
I hope there's more of the colorful villain cast of Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. It wouldn't be a Spider-Man game if he didn't have at least some of them in there.
Right. There will be. I mean, they have to have some side missions throughout the city that you have to rescue and do do with.
Just
Yeah, he
please
did
them.
have
Oh,
Kingpin.
true. Yeah,
he did
good
have
call.
Fez.
Yeah, it did.
He's
There
gonna-
was Kingpin, true.
He's got to be the bigger fish there.
Well, he was in prison in the
Right.
in the
Right,
video,
true,
so it
true.
is when he is currently incarcerated.
Fair enough. Right.
So there's probably going to be like a side story involving him, and who knows?
Certainly a lot of talking points, and definitely things to be excited over for sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's Mysterio, honestly, just because from what it sounded like, this guy who was doing all the craziness was head of the homeless shelter, or like taking care of the homeless shelter. Maybe Mysterio did something to him, and then someone else gave him like zappy powers. Who knows?
Well, it's not Mysterion, whatever the South Park.
No, Mysterio. Isn't it Mysterio with the
I
orb
think-
and
I think you're right on the name. It was just
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the South Park.
Or
Mysterion is Kenny?
Yes. Yeah.
Forbid it's like maybe that's like their version of Electro or something. I don't know.
Maybe. Okay. Well, great to have you calling.
Yeah.
It's certainly a lot to think about and talk about for Spider-Man. That's for sure. Zero, anything you'd like to plug?
Nah, not really.
Okay, good to know. I just wanted to check. We've had a lot of people calling in this E3. Just want to make sure everyone gets their opportunity to plug different things. Thank you so much. Hopefully, we'll hear from you soon. Have a great rest of your E3.
You too. Now time to fight the PlayStation Store to get that demo.
Oh, yes,
All right.
absolutely. Go check out some MVCI. Joining us from Texas, Jesse. Welcome back to the Power Switch.
It's good to be back once again.
Yes, absolutely. What would you like to talk about today regarding Sony at E3 2017?
Basically, I want to talk about something I had previously called milk carton games. And what I mean is, there were some games that after this conference, I feel like belong on the back of a milk carton. Because where were they?
Where did they go?
A lot of games were just missing from this one. And I guess part of that just comes from the fact that I feel like a Sony conference should be 90 minutes. I guess they were trying to save time. Maybe that's better for their budget, but I don't know.
I suppose
So-
it depends on which games you're thinking of. I mean, if we're talking about games like Death Stranding, if we're talking about games like The Last of Us Part 2, I mean, there's a reason for that. They were shown early, and now they're in hiding because they need to be worked on. Like, there's so much work to be done on those games in particular. But I'm curious which ones you think have been relegated to milk carton status.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, Death Stranding should have been here. I get that they don't have a trailer ready, but I just feel like I'm just disappointed with that. But where was Final Fantasy VII HD? We know it's being worked on. They can't just give like
Final
a little...
Fantasy VII won't be shown until maybe next year or the year after.
That game is in trouble.
I don't think it's in trouble.
I mean, you move it from CyberConnect 2, who was apparently working on it, which was an odd developer choice to begin with, and now they say, oh, well, now we're moving development in-house. to Square Enix, and throwing out the whole 3 years or so. That I'm worried.
Who honestly thought that Final Fantasy VII would be out this year? I'm sorry.
Not this year, but at least talk about if you're going to break it up into the episodic 3 parts, whatever that they're going to try to do with that game.
Well, true, but it could still be at Kingdom Hearts had the trailer at the orchestra. So, and they've already said that the next trailer is going to be a month from now in July at D23.
Yeah, with a new world.
Right, with a new world, so that was handled already. And honestly, I don't see us seeing or hearing much of Final Fantasy VII until more like Kingdom Hearts 3 is kind of past.
Maybe.
Really, that is another game that I was going to mention. Like, why wasn't Kingdom Hearts at this thing? I mean, we have a trailer, clearly. Why was it put out for something that wasn't a E3 conference?
I agree that there is a lot that Sony could have shown, and especially when you have lots of people gathered in theaters or people watching online, and you're having the pacing of back to back to back. An hour felt short. It went by very quickly because of you're just keeping on seeing things. But yeah, there is so much to show. I would have been fine seeing that Kingdom Hearts trailer again.
And we also have to remember Square has their own thing. Like, they'll do their own little talk and everything, and Nomura's there. So even if they're not necessarily at Sony's conference, because neither one of those games are Sony exclusive, remember, that doesn't mean we won't hear anything about it. It just means it wasn't at this specific conference. Square and Nomura is going to be at the Coliseum meeting with Jeff Keighley one day this week, so it'll probably be brought up there. Square will probably be doing not a full conference or something, but they'll be having a talk or a developer talk or later in the week themselves and showing off stuff. So just because it wasn't at Sony's conference, I wouldn't start worrying too much.
I didn't mean milk box as in like, oh, this game is paid for. I meant milk carton as in like, have you seen this game? This game was supposed to be here. It's not here.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
I'm mostly teasing. Like, I'm sure these games are doing fine. It's just, why wasn't it there? Why'd you have Mac 2 and Gran Turismo Sport before the conference? I wasn't told that we were going to be watching at 8. I was told that we were going to be watching at 9.
Yeah. I think that's a fair point. I mean, it would have been interesting to see things like even this new PlayLink idea. I think it's really interesting. And yeah, Gran Turismo Sport, I mean, it's going to sell so many units. Like, it's a huge franchise. I mean, GT5 was the top selling game on PlayStation 3 Lifetime. So really? Like that's going to be really big. So I'm surprised, that wasn't in the conference itself.
All in all, it's not a huge deal. It's just that this was the point when everyone was watching. I felt like they should have put more stuff there and less stuff elsewhere. Moving on, though, does anyone else feel like these conferences are starting to feel more like Nintendo Directs? Because there was so little talking with this one, and then you had the Bethesda conference, which was basically just a one long video. I'm wondering if we're going to start to see some of these big press conferences get phased out for more video presentation in the future.
Yeah, I wonder where the benefit is when you have like the live presentation with Sony, and I'll give them that. Like, as weird as the upside down hanging zombie was, I bet for those in the audience, like, that's a pretty cool moment. Or you had the fire coming up, the pyrotechnics there. There's some theatricality to it. There's some pageantry to it. But as far as the structure goes, that was almost like a pre-recorded thing of how you're just cycling in videos. You have an easy beginning and ending for Sean Layden to do.
Nintendo Directy.
Yeah, very much. Like Jesse said.
I feel like the funniest shit all day was just that screen just coming in from the right side.
Might have been higher resolution or something to it.
Or you're building New York. Lots of buildings.
Who knows?
I want to say it came out of left field, but it actually came off the right side.
Stage right.
Stage right.
Well, very interesting things to talk about, Jesse. Really appreciate the time.
It wasn't a bad conference. It's just that Sony is usually one of the best, if not the best, at E3, and this one just felt like, where were some of these games?
And remember, E3 proper hasn't started yet, so we still have a week of stuff and things getting shown in and out. So just because something wasn't at this conference doesn't mean it's not going to be at E3 in terms of the Square stuff.
I'm not saying that there's going to be any lack of games. I'm just saying like this was like the time to show off a whole lot of stuff, and they showed off a little less than I was expecting.
Yeah,
That's all.
no, I hear you. I totally understand, and like I miss these games. I want to see what they are, but they sometimes need to go away for a while just to work on them. And granted, it's been a very good E3 so far as conferences go. So it's a high bar.
Overall, this has probably been one of the best E3s I can think of.
Yeah. Well, hopefully Nintendo can close it out tomorrow. Hopefully we get to talk to you then, and hope you have a great rest of the E3.
Yep, I'll see you tomorrow to talk about F-Zero.
All right. Well, fingers crossed. We gotta hope.
Please.
Joining us from Georgia, Matthias, welcome to the Power Switch. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, doing quite well. Curious on your thoughts on today's Sony conference, or E3 2017.
Well, I kind of had the super opinion where I actually enjoyed it a lot more than, well, the most. Kind of because it entertained me. Even, I don't know why it entertained me, but I was more entertained than any of the other conferences.
Do you think it was the pacing in particular, like the structure? Were the games more appealing to you? Like what really stood out there?
Yeah, it was probably the pacing. The music at the beginning was very interesting. I'm a music buff like you are, so that was pretty interesting. And
I think they got to keep doing that. Keep as long as Sony's doing a live show, like keep bringing that in. That's excellent.
It's a nice little touch. It sets them apart.
I mean, I don't have any PlayStation consoles, so I didn't really interest me any of the games. Really, it was just kind of watching it to see what's new and kind of all of that.
Mm-hmm. And I think there's some value in that. Just to see like where the game industry is in certain landscapes. Like that's kind of where like what these are all about. And you see different conferences. Granted, some of these publishers where they reach across multiple platforms, but it's like showing their games and how they can best represent that. I think it's been a while since I've had to do that. I've had different consoles for many years, but I remember like back in my college days, like I didn't have a PlayStation 3, but I was still interested to see what Sony had to offer. And then that was the year of 2009 was The Last Guardian. It's like, oh, that looks so cool, and then it's years until that actually comes out. But no, I think that's really interesting. Just from that kind of outsider perspective for a console, I think it's valuable to kind of see, where everyone is kind of staking their claim.
Yeah, and probably Undertale was the most interesting announcement to me. Yeah. Because even though I don't have PlayStation, I think my friend said that he was gonna play Undertale if it was added to PlayStation.
That's such a wild announcement. Like I'm still giddy over that. I really am excited. So I'm like big into Twitter and like following the game news and all that. And this week is killing me in a sense where like I'm doing podcasting, I'm watching E3 stuff, I'm editing, and like my Twitter's just getting backed up and all that. And I wish I could see these live reactions because Undertale is one where like I want to see the internet take off and blow up from that because that's such a big announcement. From PC to console and a handheld. I can't believe the Vita bit.
Yeah,
that's wild.
That was impressive.
Yeah, definitely. And also, you said you had played it but hadn't gotten very far. How far did you get? I'm just curious.
My wife is a huge Undertale fan, so I've watched pacifist runs, I've watched genocide runs, so like I know what happens, but I'm bad at bullet hell. So as far as I got to Snowden Town the first time. I mean, it's not too far at all. There's still plenty more to go, but like at least I got past like the tutorial stuff.
I can understand that. I'm not too great myself, but I was able to get better and to.
And it's fascinating to watch things like like the Sans fight and Undying and all that. Like that's always so interesting. And just watching it at least.
Sans on, yeah.
Well, Matthias, really appreciate the time. We're moving through callers here. Thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah.
You've been chiming in that you've watched our Dashing Nerds coverage over for Scott, and like that's awesome. Really, really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you have a great rest of the E3. We'll talk soon.
Have a good one. And
joining us from Alberta, Canada, Anneke, welcome back to the Power Switch.
Thanks for letting me back on.
Oh, of course. Now, by all means, please. We love having you on. So, What would you like to talk about regarding Sony today?
I'm mainly piggybacking off what Matt and Jesse were talking about, how there were certain parts of this conference that were lacking and disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jesse was right about this being a solid E3 compared to some of the past ones, and that does frame things differently. I don't think anyone can say this is going to be, or is so far, a bad E3, but because that bar is set higher than average, everything else is going to look better or worse in comparison. And with Sony, I was really looking forward to Sony because in past years, when I can remember, they've had pretty good, solid conferences. But I was kind of disappointed this year.
Mm-hmm. I think you kind of set yourself up with that when they call their own shows the Year of Dreams and the Year of Dreams 2. And it's like, there can only be so many dreams.
They have to wake up at some point and do some work. And then later on, they'll go back to sleep and dream some more, but they need some...
I mean, granted, there was a game called Dreams that there's a milk carton box. I'll tell you what, Jesse, that is a milk carton box, Dreams, from Media Molecule. It's the weird one that had the Coca-Cola polar bear sliding down
paint games.
The fluff. But that would have been a Year of Dreams sort of announcement, but, we didn't get that. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people have high expectations for Sony because they have had strong conferences in the past. Like, I remember watching in 2013 when Sony basically destroyed Microsoft.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And so since then, it's kind of been, once Microsoft has their conference, I think a lot of people think, okay, well, now how is Sony going to respond, or how are they going to kind of respond in a different way? And I assumed this would be a 90-minute conference as well, because in the past, the console company conferences are the longer ones, but I understand wanting to have a shorter conference, especially if you don't have things to fill it with. But I agree with what Matt was saying, that I didn't like the trailer after trailer after trailer format.
Okay.
I didn't like that there was only a person on stage twice. I think that on-stage talking helps divide the conference into coherent sections, and without it, it didn't really feel like there was a coherent flow to the conference. It was kind of just, here's all the games we're announcing, and in list format. I think as long as live demonstrations and talking on stage don't last too long, I think it's beneficial to have in a conference to break it up. It's a good way to switch direction and kind of keep things new and fresh. Whereas if you're just sitting watching all these trailers, it's kind of just, you feel like you're watching the same thing.
Yeah, and I think it would have solved the duration problem, because when you get people talking on stage, it's going to extend the length of the conference. So maybe that would, adding something like that to kind of break up the flow a little bit. I mean, maybe that would have push it to something like an hour and a half, which we would expect from, as you said, these console manufacturers who have all these connections, all these third party relationships that they can pull from any direction.
And it's nice to see people excited and passionate about the games. And the one guy, he was kind of excited about it, but I don't know, I feel like in other conferences with either developers or just other people involved in these games or looking forward to the games, that helps hype up a conference and get other people excited for it as well.
Yeah.
When you just have a string of trailers, there's no one to get excited for it other than the audience cheers.
Yeah, that's a fair point, that you don't get much time to kind of, in a way, bask in the glow of the hype that the trailer brought, because it's on to the next one, and you're already trying to guess what's next. That's a fair criticism. I think it's a good debate to kind of see which do you like, and which company can kind of strike the right balance. And I think in a way, maybe that's where Microsoft succeeded yesterday, because they definitely had periods of trailer, but then they had times like it was the Assassin's Creed and Shadow of War, where it's okay, demo, kind of talk it out a little bit. So maybe that's where they did well, and it kind of showed with the duration of that conference. Very, very interesting points. It's really great to think about.
So I generally think the conference either needed to be longer or just better paced, whether there were some sections shorter than others or more talking and on-stage demonstrations. That didn't seem like it was necessary to sit in an arena and watch
Right.
But like other conferences, kind of, even if you're watching on a live stream, you still get what they're trying to do to make it a in-house experience for people. Something I personally also didn't like is that I think a lot of time was dedicated to VR games in relation to how many people actually have VR systems and are interested in VR. I guess they're trying to get people more interested in VR and more hype, and if there's games people want to play, more people will get it. But right now, I think it was just, I kept looking to the bottom left of the screen and being, oh, we're still in VR.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, especially for some of those platforming games. It just
It was only about 10 minutes, though. I don't think it was all that long.
But when you say 10 minutes, that's a sixth of
the conference.
Yeah, exactly. So it's 1/6 of the conference. So like it could have been maybe better used, time elsewhere. It just passed 1 million units, PlayStation VR. Now, granted, that's doing well for their expectations. They've had supply shortage issues, and they realize that it's very early on. And they say it's like a PlayStation 1 as far as first step as far as new hardware is concerned. But you're right. For some of those games, and it's like, I don't want to say like, is that the best you can do, because it's so early in VR. But I was interested in a couple of them. Maybe like the Inpatient probably seemed like the most interesting one, just on its own. But like you said, when you're looking at something like Bravo Team, and it's like, okay, you got to do more FPS games just because you got to keep selling that peripheral. And you're right. Like I kept looking at the bottom of that screen. It's like, how would this work in VR when it's just platforming?
Yeah, and I think because of the pacing, where it was just a string of games followed one after another that kind of flowed into each other, it felt like there weren't a lot of games they were talking about. But when you like kind of list them out, there was a decent number.
Right.
But I think it's because a lot of them had longer trailers and extended views and gameplay, but because of that one after the other, you didn't really get this is one block, one game, this is another game. It was kind of like, here's a block of maybe that was 3 or maybe that was 4 games, whatever.
Almost like an extended montage in a way.
Yeah, pretty much. And also, they weren't all new games. They were things we knew of before from last E3 or from announcements whenever. So that also kind of makes it seem like there weren't a lot, because we knew about a lot of them already.
Yeah, that's it's a really, really fascinating talking points. It's could probably go on for hours about the minutia of E3 presentations, and I like how the different conferences have kind of brought different things to perspective. Now tomorrow with Nintendo, we're going to see ultra short, 25 minutes, pre-recorded, and rapid fire. So I wonder if the same sort of logic is going to carry over. Now, granted, they'll have their treehouse after where they'll have those extended looks, but it's going to provide an interesting comparison point. So, Anneke, thank you so much for bringing all this up. A great insight. Really, really appreciate it. Anything you'd like to plug in particular?
Not really. I'm a busy adult working that 9 to 5, so got no room for anything else.
I really want to play Night in the Woods. I remember your recommendation, and you just beat it recently, right?
Yeah, I just finished it last night, and it was really good. So
good to hear. Good to hear. Well, have to check that one out soon. Everyone else should. I guess it's looking like one of those best indie games of the year. So we'll have to check it out for sure. Anneke, thanks so much for your time. Have a great rest of your E3.
You as well.
All right, Scott. Day 3 of E3 press conferences down. It's a long one. I know.
Not as long as 24 hours ago we were still waiting for Bethesda.
Oh my God. I dread to think. But no, that does it for the Sony episode. Yeah. It's a bit of a longer one compared to our other E3 episodes, but lots of great conversation, guys. Thank you so much. That was
very much so
fantastic.
Good talk.
Real talk. We'll see what happens with Nintendo tomorrow. I'm really interested to see, how do they back up the Switch? It may be the same issue with Bethesda when they said the spotlight's on 2017 games, but if you don't show anything for 2018, I think you're making a big mistake. You gotta.
I almost
feel
like a lot of them are going to be 2018, and there's going to be a lot less 2017.
You mean like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is going to be 2018?
Yeah, I don't believe for a second that they're actually going to stick that 2017.
I think I saw some sort of rumor that talked about like a February 3rd release date slippage. So maybe we'll see. And then that same one was also saying like November 17 for Super Mario Odyssey. That makes a lot of sense. Like that's right before. And anyway, we could talk all about that for Nintendo tomorrow. Nintendo. And when we'll go before 10 minutes before, we'll go at
Facebook.com/dashingnerds. We'll be live 10 minutes before, giving you our thoughts on what we hope to see, followed by when the conference starts. We'll be live streaming the conference itself, along with our live beautiful reactions. And then afterwards, we'll be going and doing the PowerSwitch. So, are we going right after the conference?
I want to say we'll go right after the spotlight. We'll probably have our chat over at rhymeswithasia.com/call. Probably have someone. I'm sure we'll have the treehouse going.
I'll probably have the treehouse in this, and then I'll just randomly spot off. Oh my gosh!
That too. I mean, it could be exciting to have live news breaking there. They're talking maybe the first hour of that. We'll have some news along with it as well. But I'm sure within that 25 minutes there'll be a lot to talk about, especially for the Nintendo fans that we have. So until then, we'll call it a night. For Scott White, I am Peter Spezia. Until next time, switch up, call in, game on.